The alarm clock buzzed at 5 a.m., same as every day for the last 12 years. But this morning, Michael didn't rise with the same practiced rhythm. He lay still for a moment, eyes open, staring at the dark ceiling, then sat up slowly, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. The floor was cold, or maybe it was just his skin reacting to the heaviness in the air behind him. Tonya groaned and rolled over. "You're seriously setting alarms now? You're not even going to work," she mumbled, dragging the blanket over her head. Michael said nothing. 2 days earlier, he had walked into the office of Obasanjo Engineering with the confidence of a man who had built machines, solved city infrastructure problems, and mentored interns who now ran entire departments. He walked out with a brown envelope. Inside was a letter, a kind one, even polite, respectful. But it still said one thing: your services are no longer needed. Downsizing, restructuring. You've been loyal. Michael, they'd said, almost guilty. This isn't about you. But it was it always is. Michael stood now, slowly, and walked into the bathroom. He washed his face with cold water, splashed it hard against his cheeks, hoping it would wake up whatever part of him still had a plan. Outside the bedroom door, light feet came running. Daddy, Naomi, 6 years old, her tiny afro squished from sleep, her teddy bear dangling by one leg. He knelt to hug her. "Are you not going to work today?" she asked, blinking. "No, princess," he said, brushing her hair back gently. "Daddy's staying home today." Naomi's eyes lit up. "Yay, we can draw together." He forced a smile. "Yes, we can." In the kitchen, Tonya stood by the stove, stirring her tea like it was a punishment. Her phone was already glued to her hand. She was texting someone, he didn't know who, but her lips curled up with satisfaction. As she typed, "You're going to need to figure something out," she said, not looking at him. "Fast." Michael said nothing. He picked up 2 slices of bread, toasted them, and sat silently at the table. That same afternoon, he overheard her call her mother. "I'm not staying in a house where I'm the only one with goals," she said, loud enough for him to hear from the hallway. "I didn't marry a man to babysit him." Her words cut, but it didn't interrupt. He waited until the call ended, then entered the kitchen. Slammed. Tonya was packing. He stood in the doorway. "What are you doing?" She didn't pause. "I'm leaving." Naomi sat on the couch, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Gina, the older daughter, 10 years old, watchful, already too wise, stood behind her, arms crossed. "You're leaving," Michael repeated. "I need air. I need clarity. I need to be around people who aren't just dragging me down." "You're abandoning your daughters." Tonya zipped the second suitcase. "They'll survive. They're girls, they always do." "Naomi," he called gently. The little girl ran to him, clutching his leg. "I want to go with Mummy." Tonya didn't look at her, didn't even bend down. "You'll thank me later," she said, and walked out the door. No hugs, no glances back. The door clicked shut, silence. Michael didn't cry, not yet. He wrapped his arms around both girls and whispered, "We're going to be okay." That night, he sat in the dim living room, the light from the hallway casting long shadows on the walls. Gina sat silently at the corner, drawing circles on her schoolbook with a pencil. Naomi was asleep on his lap. His phone buzzed. Tonya just posted a new photo. He clicked at her, standing in front of an airport window, sunglasses on, rolling luggage beside her. Caption, "New beginnings, peace over poverty." He turned off the screen. The next day, he made a list. Find work, any work. He texted former colleagues. Most left him on read. One said, "Hang in there." Another replied, "Sorry bro, times are hard." He went to a nearby construction site. The foreman looked at him skeptically. "You've ever lifted cement before?" Michael looked down at his once smooth hands. "No," he said, "but I'll learn." That evening, he walked home with cracked palms and aching shoulders. Cement powder clung to his skin like guilt. Naomi ran out to meet him. She hugged his dusty legs without a second thought. "I made you something," Gina said from the door, holding a folded paper. Michael took it, hands trembling slightly. It was a drawing of a man holding 2 little girls. Above it, in bold crayon, "My daddy is my hero." He sat down on the steps and stared at it. And then, for the first time in days, he cried. Not from weakness, but because something inside him had survived. The following week brought more pain. Naomi caught a fever. Michael had only 800 naira in his wallet, barely enough for paracetamol. He skipped dinner, telling Gina he had eaten at work. She didn't argue, just nodded quietly and gave him a piece of her pap. That night, he sat outside, staring into the dark. What was he becoming? What had he lost? And yet, inside that house were two girls who believed in him. That had to mean something. It had to. One morning, at the site, he heard his name. Michael. He turned. Charles, an old friend from the engineering firm, stood, staring, stunned. Is this you? Michael wiped sweat from his brow. Yes, this is me now. Charles didn't hide his shock. He even raised his phone for a photo, pretending to be checking something else. Michael turned away before he could. That night, he found Naomi, coughing again, her small body wrapped in a thin blanket. Gina was fanning her, eyes tired but focused. Michael took the drawing again and pressed it to his chest. He whispered, "I won't lose." He made a call he didn't want to. Cynthia Tonia, single quotes, best friend, please, he said, voice low. I need her address, not for me, for the girls. Cynthia paused. Then, I'll send it, but she won't listen. I just want to try. The next day, Michael put on his cleanest shirt. He washed his face twice, borrowed money for transport, bought a small fruit basket, and went to Royal Estate. The security man eyed him but let him in. He knocked at the door. Tonia opened it. She looked flawless. Silk robe, wineglass, relaxed. Her eyes narrowed. How did you find me? Michael held up the fruit basket. I just want 5 minutes. Naomi's sick. Gina misses you. I'm not here to fight. From inside, a deep male voice. Babe, who's that? A tall man appeared behind her, shirtless, confident, hand on her waist. Tonia looked Michael in the eye. He was just leaving. Michael stood still, then nodded and walked away. The morning after the visit to Tonia's estate, Michael didn't mention a word to the girls. Naomi was still coughing, curled up under a blanket that had long lost its fluff. Gina was sweeping the small front area, her sleeves rolled up, face tight with a kind of silent maturity that no 10-year-old should carry. Michael quietly counted coins from an old jar. They added up to almost nothing. He placed them on the table, stared at them for a long moment, then sighed. Today was about choice medicine or food. He chose medicine. He made a pap for the girls, added a pinch of sugar, and served it in bowls, slightly cracked at the edges. As they ate, he packed his work trousers into a nylon bag, grabbed a bottle of water, and stepped into the street with stiff legs and a head full of pressure. The walk to the construction site was long and hot. The son didn't care that he hadn't eaten. The foreman barked at the laborers. Faster, wet the mix or the cement will crack. Michael joined the line of men lifting blocks. Each block seemed heavier than the last. His palms, raw from the week before, reopened under the rough edges. Sweat soaked through his shirt. His knees wobbled. Behind him, someone muttered, Nah, big man, be this before, or see, I suffer humble am. Another laughed. He heard them, but he said nothing, not once, because that laughter wasn't louder than Gina's voice saying, Daddy, are we eating tonight? By week's end, Michael could barely stand straight, but he refused to break. Each evening, he carried water from the public tap, boiled it in a kettle with a broken handle, and bathed the girls. He combed Naomi's hair with fingers that barely bent. He listened to Gina read aloud from her schoolbook. Even when his eyes could barely stay open, they were all he had, and he was all they had. Meanwhile, across oceans, in a luxury suite, bathed in golden light, Tonia posted a selfie in a red bikini, a cocktail in hand, the sea behind her. Caption, if I had stayed, I'd still be boiling water with firewood. Her new partner Stanley was charming, generous, and rich. He booked trips to Mauritius, Seychelles, and Dubai without blinking. They wore matching outfits on yachts, dined in floating restaurants, slept on rose-petal-covered beds. Comments flooded. In your glowing sis, your ex must be punching the air. Tonia laughed, posted more. No one asked about the daughters she'd left behind. Back in Nigeria, Michael's evenings were quieter. He no longer owned a generator, sold it to pay for Naomi's blood test. They used candles and a dim rechargeable lamp. The fridge stayed off to conserve electricity. Sometimes he walked the girls to school and jogged back to save on transport fare. The neighbor, Mama Peace, often gave him food on credit. He paid back when he could, sometimes in cash, sometimes by repairing her broken wooden door. At night, Michael would lie on the mat with the girls, Naomi's little body pressed against his chest, Gina curled beside them with her drawing pad. One night, she whispered, "Daddy, why did Mummy leave us?" He held her tighter. "Because sometimes people forget what matters, but you didn't forget us. Never." One scorching Thursday, Michael came home early. Naomi had thrown up at school. He found her on the mat, eyes dull, skin clammy. Gina had walked her home, skipped her last class, and stayed by her side. Michael didn't hesitate. He lifted Naomi, wrapped her in a blanket, and ran. The clinic was full. The nurse looked at him, then at his dusty clothes. "Wait here." Hours passed. Finally, the doctor called them in. "It's a throat infection, possibly worsened by dehydration and dust exposure," he said. "She needs antibiotics, clean water, fruit, and rest." Michael nodded. Double quotes. "How much?" "Prescriptions. Here, you'll need at least 5,000 naira for the full dose." Michael opened his wallet. 3 crumpled bills. "Total, 900. He looked at the doctor. "Can I pay, partner?" The man paused, then handed him a sample pack and said, "Pay the rest when you can, but don't wait too long." That night, Michael sat in the corner, counting coins again. Gina was fanning Naomi gently with a piece of cardboard. The light from the rechargeable lamp flickered, throwing shadows across the room. He made a decision, not out of pride, out of necessity. He had to find something better than carrying cement. He remembered a man at the site foreman was a building materials depot looking for help. Michael found the number, hesitated, then pressed call. "Hello sir, it's Michael, from the site." A pause. "Michael, you day manage?" "Yes sir, I heard about an opening storekeeper or assistant." You're still looking for work?" "Yes sir, anything." Another pause. "Be at Alhaji Bellows depot tomorrow." I gave them your name. Michael almost dropped the phone. "You did. You never gave me Wahala, even when others were lazy." I noticed. Michael's voice cracked. "Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint." The next morning, Gina helped shine his shoes using the side of a worn-out sponge. Naomi, still weak but smiling, waved from the mat. Michael kissed their foreheads. "Pray for Daddy. God will help you," Gina said. I already told him. The depot was large, loud, and alive. Wheelbarrows moved in every direction. Trucks beeped. Men shouted. It was chaos but structured. Michael waited at the office. A stocky man with a thick moustache walked in. "You, Michael?" "Yes, sir. Sit." Michael obeyed. The man flipped through a file, then looked up. "Can I trust you?" Michael didn't. "Prepare a speech." "I have 2 daughters," he said. "I've worked in offices and carried cement. I've never stolen, and I won't start now." The man nodded. Double quotes. 2-week probation. 18,000 naira weekly. Start tomorrow. Michael stood. "Thank you, sir. You won't regret it." That evening, he brought home to meat pies and a cold bottle of malt. Gina's eyes widened. Naomi clapped. "Weekly? What happened, Daddy?" "I start work tomorrow." They danced around the room like it was Christmas. That night, Michael sat outside with a cold breeze brushing against his face. He looked up at the stars and whispered, "Let this be the beginning." Far away, in an ocean view suite, Tonya was checking Stanley's pockets while he showered. She found a receipt for 2 rings, but she had only seen one. Her chest tightened. She didn't say a word, but doubt had crept in. Back in Nigeria, Michael woke before dawn, ironed his best shirt using a hot pot lid, and arrived early at the depot. He was assigned stock records and assisted in deliveries. By the end of week 1, customers were already asking for that calm guy. By week 2, Alhaji Bello called him in. "You run this place like it's yours," he said. "I'm extending your contract. Good work." Michael bowed slightly. "Thank you, sir." Each evening, he came home with something: vegetables, soap, sometimes even suya. The girls' smiles grew wider. Even Mama Peace noticed. "You walk different now," she said. Michael smiled. "I carry less shame these days." One afternoon, as he cross-checked inventory, a familiar voice said behind him, "Michael." He turned. "Cynthia." She froze. "You work here?" "I manage the depot now," he said calmly. Cynthia looked around the clean records, the way staff greeted him, the crisp shirt with the depot logo. She blinked. Tonya wouldn't believe this. Michael shrugged. I don't need her to. That night, Cynthia sent Tonya a photo. Tonya stared at the screen. Michael, smiling, confident. She zoomed in on his face, on the pen clipped to his chest, the logo on his shirt, the clipboard in his hand. She didn't know when she started crying. Naomi's cough had returned, louder this time, drier, more frequent. It echoed in the small apartment like a quiet alarm clock, reminding Michael with each rasp that time was not his friend. Her fever was back too, hotter than before. Her cheeks flushed and her eyes glassy. Gina sat beside her sister, dipping a rag into a basin of cool water, gently patting Naomi's forehead. She didn't speak. She hadn't said much all day, not since Michael came home the night before and told them the medicine had run out. They had finished the last antibiotic 2 days ago, and Michael had no money left. He searched every drawer that morning, every pocket of every shirt, a few crumpled notes, some coins, and a rusted key he had no use for. Nothing more. He stood by the door and stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then he turned to Gina. Stay with her. I'll be back soon. Gina nodded without looking up. Outside, the air was already thick with heat, though it wasn't even 8 a.m. yet. Michael walked with a purpose, but no destination. He just needed ... something, an answer, a miracle, a chance. He passed by a pharmacy and stopped. The pharmacist, a middle-aged man with tired eyes, recognized him. She's sick again, he asked. Michael nodded. I just need ... something, anything to bring the fever down. I can't keep giving you medicine on credit. Michael didn't argue. He simply pulled the pen out of his pocket, the one with the depot logo, and handed it over. Please, he said. It's all I have right now. I'll come back with money, I swear. The pharmacist stared at the pen, then at Michael. He sighed. Take the syrup and the but I won't be able to do this again. You won't have to, Michael said, voice low. He returned home and found Gina exactly where he'd left her. Naomi was still burning up, her body now limp, eyes half closed. He administered the syrup carefully, blowing on the spoon so it wouldn't feel too hot in her mouth. Then he rocked her gently, humming quietly, one of those old lullabies his mother used to sing to him. After a while, Naomi's breathing slowed. She was asleep. For now, Michael leaned against the wall, exhausted. Later that night, after the girls were tucked in, Michael walked outside. He sat on the cement block near the door and looked up at the sky. The stars blinked softly, mocking the darkness inside. Him he hadn't eaten since morning. Neither had Gina, really. Just pap again. His stomach ached, but not more than his pride. I'm trying, he whispered into the night. I'm really trying. His voice cracked. The wind was still. That's when the door creaked open behind him. He turned. Gina stepped out in her pajamas, holding something folded in her hand. I made this at school, she said softly. She handed him the paper. He opened it slowly. It was a drawing him in the middle, holding both girls by the hand. All three were smiling. Naomi had her teddy bear. Gina had a book. At the top, in block letters, were 5 words. My daddy is my hero. Michael stared at it, and then something inside him cracked. Tears rolled down his cheeks, quiet, raw, unstoppable. He opened his arms. Gina stepped into them without hesitation. Thank you, he whispered, hugging her tight. Thank you for not giving up on me. You never gave up on us, she replied. The next morning, Michael woke before the sun. He looked at the drawing again. It wasn't just a picture, it was a promise. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through his contact list, and stopped at one. Name, Foreman Musa. He tapped call. It rang twice. Musa speaking. Sir, it's Michael. From the site. Michael, you there, alright. I'm managing. Sir, I remember you said something about a building materials depot. They were looking for help. There was a pause. You're still searching? Yes, sir, I'm ready. Anything, I just need the chance. Another pause. Then, be at Al-Haji Bello's depot tomorrow morning. I've already given them your name. Michael blinked. You did. I saw how you worked. Quiet, steady, no complaints. You earned it. Michael bowed his head instinctively, even though he was alone in the room. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. The next day, he wore his cleanest shirt, the one with only one button missing. He ironed it using the bottom of a hot pot, pressed it flat on the wooden table. Gina helped shine his shoes again, using a piece of foam and ash. Naomi, still groggy but improving, smiled faintly from the mat. "Daddy looks like he's going to church," she said. He laughed, kissed both their foreheads, and stepped out the door at the depot. It was organized chaos. Workers moved like bees, lifting, loading, shouting, laughing. Trucks pulled in and out. The air was full of dust, diesel, and urgency. Michael waited at the main office until a stern man with sharp eyes and a strong jaw walked in. "You, Michael?" "Yes, sir. You came on time." "Good. Sit." Michael sat. The man stared at him for a long moment, then asked one question. "Can I trust you?" Michael didn't hesitate. "I've got 2 daughters. I've worked in offices. I've carried blocks. I've begged for medicine, but I've never stolen. I won't start now." The man's gaze softened slightly. "You'll start tomorrow. 2-week probation, 18,000 weekly. If you do well, we'll keep you." Michael stood slowly. "Thank you, sir. You won't regret this." That night, Michael didn't bring home suya. He couldn't afford that yet, but he did bring something else. Hope. He told the girls everything. How the depot was bigger than the site. How he'd have his own station, a ledger, maybe even a chair. Naomi clapped. Gina smiled, but stayed quiet. She walked to the corner, picked up her drawing, and handed it back to him. "You should keep it with you, for when the day gets hard." Michael took it like it was sacred. "I will." It's far. Across the city, in a bedroom layered with white curtains and scented candles, Tonia sat on the edge of Stanley's bed. He hadn't come home the night before. She checked his phone again. Still locked. His smile was still charming. His lies were still smooth, but her stomach twisted with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Regret. She opened her gallery and stared at the photo Cynthia had sent earlier that week. Michael standing, tall, confident, in control. She zoomed in on his face. He wasn't the man she left behind. Back in their small rented apartment, Michael sat beside Naomi, brushing her hair while she hummed. The light flickered above them, but the room was brighter than ever. The depot became more than just a job. It became his proving ground. Michael arrived earlier than everyone else, and left only after checking each inventory sheet twice. He swept the storeroom himself, double-checked deliveries, and kept strict track of accounts. Within days, drivers greeted him with respect. Laborers listened when he spoke. Customers returned asking for the tall man with the clipboard. His hands no longer carried cement, but his shoulders bore responsibility, and he carried it well. 2 weeks after starting, Alhaji Bello summoned him. "You," the older man said, pointing his biro at Michael across the desk. "Work like this. Place is yours." Michael smiled faintly. "I just do my best." Sir Bello leaned back. "You're not just a worker. You're a system. I'm promoting you. From next week, you'll manage inventory and supervise site deliveries." Michael's heart thudded. "I don't have the qualifications. You've got discipline. That's rarer." Michael stood slowly, bowed slightly. "Thank you. I won't fail you." And he meant it. That weekend, he brought home yams, toiletries, a small standing fan, and to meat pies. Gina squealed. Naomi hugged the fan like a stuffed animal. Even Mama Peace, their neighbor, noticed. "You walk like a man who owns his future now," she said, handing him back the bowl he'd once borrowed salt in. "I'm trying to," he replied. Back at the depot, responsibilities piled on, but Michael handled them all. He optimized stock records, resolved delivery conflicts, reorganized the storeroom by product type. The workers noticed, customers noticed. So did Bello. One afternoon, he called Michael again. "I've been watching you. You run this depot better than I ever did." Michael chuckled nervously. "You built it, sir. I'm moving to Canada with my wife. We've been planning for years. I want you to take over." Michael blinked. "Sir, the depot, the records, the trucks, the lease. I've drawn up the papers. It's yours. No debt. You've earned it." Michael's knees nearly gave out. "I don't even know what to say then." "Don't say anything. Just take care of it. And take care of your girls." That night, Michael didn't sleep. He watched Gina and Naomi breathing softly on their new mattresses. He stared at the ceiling and whispered, "Thank you." Then he opened his Bible, placed Gina's drawing inside it like a bookmark, and prayed, not for more, but for strength to keep what he'd been given. Elsewhere in the city, Tonia's paradise began to rot. Stanley grew distant. At first he stopped tagging her in posts, then he stopped coming home. His second phone, once lying carelessly on the table, now never left his pocket, and he'd started locking it. He dismissed her questions with silence or sarcasm. You think this house is yours? He snapped. One morning, she stared at the untouched breakfast she had made for him. Is there someone else? She asked. Stanley scoffed. Don't act like you're my wife. He left without another word. That afternoon, while folding his laundry, Tonia found a receipt hidden inside his jacket. Lazore, one-night suite, 92,000, paid in full. Dated 2 days earlier, he had told her he was on a business trip in Abeokuta. That night, her stomach turned. The storm came the next day. She was in the living room, wearing his robe, painting her nails, when the door burst open. 3 women stormed in. Where is she? One screamed. Tonia barely had time to stand before the first slap landed. Are you mad? You moved into my house like Queen Mother. Her wig flew across the room. A broomstick cracked across her back. Slippers rained down. Stanley emerged from the bathroom in a towel, stunned. But the wrath was already upon them. You disgraced us, his wife shouted, grabbing his phone and hurling it into the wall. Neighbors gathered outside. Cameras were out. Tonia was dragged out barefoot, designer bag in one hand, shame in the other. Stanley followed, his clothes thrown from the balcony. Like trash. Hours later, Tonia knocked on Cynthia's door, face bruised, voice shaking. Cynthia opened slowly. What happened to you? Tonia collapsed onto the couch. Please, just a few days. I have nowhere else. Cynthia didn't ask much, just sighed and pointed to the guest room. No drama, no noise, just rest. Days passed, but Tonia didn't leave. She slept in late, scrolled through her phone, ate without asking, and did no chores. Cynthia remained polite, but her silence grew sharper. The guest room became colder. One night, on the phone with her cousin, Cynthia said, I don't know how to tell her, but she's draining me. Tonia overheard from the hallway. Her heart sank. That weekend, she packed her things quietly. Pride broken, dignity low. There was only one place left to go. She stood outside the old compound, the one she once stormed. Out of without a second glance, she knocked, hoping to find something familiar. A young man answered. Michael? She asked weakly. He looked confused. Oh, he moved out months ago. Big man now, owns a business, lives in Lekki. Her breath caught. Do you know the address? His wife overheard, recognized Tonia, and gave directions. Pity flickered in her eyes. Tonia thanked them and left quickly. 2 hours later, she stood at the gate of a mansion in Lekki. Landscaped flowers, shining tiles, a white car parked under a canopy. She hesitated, then knocked. The gateman eyed her, frowning. Who are you looking for? Michael, she whispered. He eyed her, clothes creased, dusty. Who should I say is asking? Tonia. He disappeared. Inside, Michael was reviewing a guest list for his upcoming engagement. His fiancée sat beside him, a graceful woman with a gentle voice and bright eyes. Gina and Naomi were in the kitchen, giggling as they tasted cake samples. The gateman entered. Sir, a woman at the gate. She said her name is Tonia. Michael froze. Then took a breath. Let her in. Tonia stepped through the gate slowly, as if afraid the dream would vanish. She looked up and stopped. Michael stood on the porch, wearing a clean white shirt, black slacks, calm as ever. Beside him stood his fiancée, her hand resting lightly on his. On either side of them were Gina and Naomi, dressed beautifully, eyes clear, posture proud. Tonia's voice cracked. Michael, she dropped her bag. Please, I've lost everything. Cynthia kicked me out. I came to say I'm sorry. Michael's gaze didn't soften. Tonia, he said, I forgave you a long time ago. She exhaled in relief. But I've moved on. She blinked. So you're not alone. No, I'm loved and I'm respected. Her eyes flicked to the woman beside him, to Gina's calm stare. To Naomi's faint smile. Her knees buckled. Please, I'm begging, just a chance to breathe. Michael stepped forward, helped her stand. You still have some dignity left. Don't lose all of it. She looked away, ashamed. I'll give you some cash, enough to start over, but nothing more. Tonia's lips trembled. I understand. He turned to the gateman. Give her food in a small envelope, then let her go. Tonia opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. She turned, picked up her bag, and walked back down the driveway. She didn't look back. The gate closed behind her. This time, it stayed. Shut out inside, Michael sat beside his daughters as they watched a movie. His fiancée joined them, arms wrapped gently around his . Naomi looked up. Daddy. Yes, sweetheart. Are we rich now? Michael smiled. No, baby. We're blessed." The evening sun bled gold across the compound as Michael stood on the balcony, watching his daughters race barefoot across the tiled courtyard. Naomi's laughter floated through the air like wind chimes. Gina, now taller, more graceful, chased after her with mock annoyance. Inside, his fiancée Adora arranged vases on the dining table, humming softly. She'd brought color back into his life: kindness, stability, quiet joy. He didn't think much about the past these days, but it hadn't forgotten him. The next morning, the gate buzzed. Michael was in the home office, reviewing supply chain reports. He answered the intercom. "Sir," the gateman said, "there's a woman at the gate. Says her name is Tonya." Michael closed his eyes, a slow breath. "Let her wait, I'll come out." Tonya stood on the sidewalk, her clothes clean, but plain, her braids untidy. She held a single purse and nothing else. When the gate opened and Michael stepped out, she straightened her shoulders. He didn't speak at first. She did. "I'm not here to fight," she said. Michael folded his arms. "What are you here for?" "I don't want your money." Her voice cracked. I don't even know anymore. I thought I had everything. I thought Stanley was everything." He said nothing. "I lost everything." "Michael, still, nothing. I thought you were weak when I left. I thought you'd sink, but I saw the girls, your home, I saw you." Her voice trembled. "I didn't know a man could rise like that after being shattered." Michael finally spoke. "You didn't just leave me, Tonya. You walked away from two girls who called you mummy." Her eyes filled. "I know. I begged you to stay for them. You turned your back." She wiped her cheek. "You have every right to hate me." "I don't hate you," he said quietly. "I just don't see you the same. I'm not asking for a place in your life again. I just wanted you to hear me, to know that I regret it." Michael looked at her long and hard. She searched his face for softness. He offered none. Then, "Finally, I'll give you some money. Enough to get a room. Start something small. But that's all I can give." Tonya nodded. He turned to the gateman. "Give her 50,000 and something to eat. Make sure she leaves with respect." He faced her one last time. "I hope you find your peace." Tonya stepped back, voice low. "I don't deserve your kindness." "No," Michael said, "but my daughters do. They deserve to live in a world where people are still capable of grace." That night, after dinner, Michael sat on the porch, with Gina and Naomi wrapped in blankets beside him. The stars were out. The air smelled like roasted corn from a neighbor's brazier. Naomi leaned on his arm. "Daddy?" "Yes, sweetheart. That woman, the one who came today. She looked like Mummy." Michael paused. "She was..." Gina turned slightly. "What did she want?" "To talk." Naomi blinked up at him. "Is she coming back?" He thought about it. "No," he said gently. "She's not." "Are you sad?" Michael smiled faintly. "No, I'm free." Gina reached into her pocket and pulled out the same folded drawing, the one that had followed them from that old apartment. To hear she'd kept it safe all this time. "Remember this." Michael opened it again. The drawing was a little faded, edges worn, but the words were still there. "My daddy is my hero." He chuckled. "I should frame this." "No," Gina said. "Keep it in your pocket. You still have things to do." Michael kissed her forehead. "You're right." The engagement party came 2 weeks later. Friends, neighbors, even former colleagues came. Michael wore a tailored agbada. A daura shimmered in gold lace. Gina and Naomi walked proudly beside them, flower crowns in their hair. The picture of elegance. The MC introduced him as Michael Chukwumefather, entrepreneur and man of honor. As guests clapped, Michael looked over the crowd. Tonya wasn't there. He didn't expect her to be, but part of him was glad. This chapter wasn't about the past anymore. The depot flourished. Under Michael's leadership, it expanded to a second branch. He hired men he once labored beside, paid them fair, trained them well. People respected him not for what he had, but for what he'd been through and what he'd become. One quiet Sunday afternoon, he and the girls sat on the living room floor, building a puzzle. Adura entered with iced tea, barefoot and smiling. Michael looked around the roomlight pouring in through the curtains, laughter bouncing off the walls, peace in every breath. He didn't say much, but in his chest, something whispered. You kept your soul, you raised your daughters, you rebuilt your life. And on a shelf in his new office behind glass, in a simple, black frame hung the drawing Gina once made. The title still clear, My Daddy is My Hero. Because that, in the end, was the only legacy he needed. If you watched until the end, comment the word resilience, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with friends and family.